started. So hi, I'm Cath Holloway and I'm the community agent for the South Somerset East area. So that covers the areas of Yeovil to Chard and all the beautiful villages in between. Some of you might recognise me because I used to be the village agent for villages such as Stokes upon Hamden and Hinton, or the Yeovil area really. I went as far as Queen Camel and Ilchester. So I still write an article in those parish magazines, so you may have seen a picture of me at the bottom, and hopefully you even tune in and listen to my chats each month in the parish magazine. Brilliant. Oh, lovely. Thank you, Karen. I can see that I am on live, so that's brilliant. Thank you for that. That's great. It did just decide to buffer and crash just as I was about to get started. So yeah, it all went blank and I was in a bit of a panic there. So thank you. I have to say, it is really weird seeing yourself on TV. I don't know if you guys have ever watched Kylie Pentelow on the ITV West Country. I used to have a little giggle about her because she always used to pout into the TV. And now I know why. But I'm trying just not to quite look at myself because it is really disconcerting. Anyway, so as if you've been watching any of the Talking Cafes live so far this week, you'll know that actually it's National Volunteer Week. So I thought with National Volunteer Week, so really what we're doing is thanking all the volunteers. So some of the COVID volunteers who are working really hard now, but also volunteers who are quietly working in the background all the time. So to start with, as you can see, I've popped up a little bit of bunting and I've got my mug ready, and I thought if everyone else has got a mug as well, then perhaps we could raise our mugs and say thank you to some of the volunteers that work in South Somerset. So what I'd like to do today as well is I want to make sure that it's really interactive. So if you can get that chat going now that I can see it, that would be brilliant. And it means I'm going to be able to keep stopping and looking back and seeing what people are writing. And since we're talking about volunteers today, I thought it'd be really nice if people can start putting on some ideas of people that they would like to say thank you to, perhaps. Maybe if you've been a volunteer and you would like to say about how volunteering was good for you, or an experience within your volunteering that you'd like to share. Maybe you'd like to be a volunteer and we could help you with that. Or maybe even if you wanted to, just tell us of some volunteering opportunities that you know that are available. So please do get onto that chat, and I'm going to keep sort of coming backwards and forwards and looking at it and sharing everyone's ideas. So it's not just going to be me talking today. Hopefully you'll all be joining in as well. And so far I can see we've got Karen Ball with us and Kirsten Ranson. So thank you for joining us today. And hopefully in a few minutes we'll have a few more. So I thought when I started this, I looked to see what was on the volunteer website, the Volunteers Week website, and straight away it brought up some statistics. Now, I'm not actually very good with statistics. I don't really like them very much. I have to really look at them and think about what they mean. So I'm going to have a look here. I'm just getting rid of my phone because it's ringing. The first statistic I've got is it says in 2017, just rolling down so I can get to it. In 2017, 20.1 million people, that's 38% of people, volunteered formally at least once a year. And 11.8 million people, that's 22% of people, did so at least once a month. Now, I thought that was really interesting because, it says that people volunteer once a year. And I think that's really important because it shows that, the commitment level doesn't have to be that high. I think people often worry when they start thinking about volunteering that, they're going to get drawn in more and more and they're going to have to be putting a lot of time into it. But quite interestingly, they volunteer once a year. It doesn't say, it just says people. So I don't know either if there's children volunteering there or if it's adults. There's a lot to think about with that statistic, I thought. Now, the second one, it says, wanting to do good is the most common motivation to volunteer. And in 2017-2018, 46% of people said that they volunteer to improve things for themselves and others. In 2015-16, there were around 166,000 volunteer organisations in the UK. So that's the opportunities to volunteer. And that's equivalent to about 1.2% of GDP. So it shows that volunteering is actually helping our economy to grow. So those people who are volunteering are actually, they're creating money, they're creating, a growth in our economy. So they're really important. And when you think like 166,000 6,000. That's a huge amount. Now, if I scroll down again, it says 67% of volunteers give their time to charities and community groups. But many people also volunteer in the public and private sectors. And that started me thinking about the people who are paid to volunteer. So people like, people like some of the shops or some of the banks, they send their workers out and give them volunteering time. And they go into things like they're going to school and read with children, or they'll go and pack food or work for a food bank or something like that. So, there are different types of volunteering that, I hadn't really thought about. Okay, so saying that we wanted to make it really interactive, let's have a look down. And Carolyn, lovely to see you here as well. Thank you. I'm glad you like my bunting. It did take me a little while to find it this morning. I have to admit, we've had our birthdays this month. My husband, my daughter and I, and the cat, all have our birthdays in May. So our bunting's looking a little bit tired now. And we've got it out for VE Day as well. So it's worked hard, our bunting. Okay, so as part of the village agent team, we're working alongside volunteers all the time. And I thought it'd be really nice, like I said, to raise a mug and say cheers to those people that help us. So I thought it'd be a really nice idea to just talk through some of those people that help us. And I'm going to drop in a few names of people that I would like to say thank you to. So again, as we go along, if that then makes you think of people that you'd like to say thank you to, please tap them in, and then I'm going to keep stopping and saying to people, and reading out the thanks and volunteers that you've put on there. So the ones that we generally work with, and again, if I miss something out, please tap it in. Carers group leaders, talking cafe volunteers, village entertainment leaders, COVID volunteers, food banks, the Royal Volunteer Service, and the Talk and Support Service. So those are the ones I've outlined, but please, again, add some more if you can think that I've missed out on a group that we work with that are really important. So scrolling down, sorry. Okay, so if I start then with the carers group leaders. Now, the carers groups are organised for people who are unpaid carers. So they're the people who have family members or friends that they're looking after. Sometimes that could be just popping in once a day or once a week to check up on them, to living with people, working with hoists, doing full personal care, that kind of thing. It's a huge area. And the carers groups are there so that people can come and just have a chat, sit down with a group of people in the same position as them, have a cuppa, nice piece of cake, and either sound off a little bit about how they're feeling, or the opposite, completely escape from it and chat about something completely different. The carers, the carers organisers, they're there not just to organise this, but they also give so much sort of love and support to the people who are there and make them feel like they're not quite so alone. Jackie in Martock is the first person that I would like to say thank you to. She is incredible. She shows so much love and care for her group. And she's so enthusiastic as well. And not only does she run the Martock group, which runs out of the Chirpe Cafe in Martock, but she also works for the Samaritans, and she's starting off our Yeovil group for us as well in the Samaritans building. So Jackie, thank you. She's not the only one, actually. All our carers leaders have to do an awful lot of work, and we're really proud of them. My mind wanders as well to Fliss and Ruth over in Castle Carey. Again, they do have some really interesting speakers in, but also they've worked really closely with some people who've been in some really low spots and have struggled, and they've kept on with them, gone out of hours time to really support those people. And I think they volunteer in the charity shop as well, so they're just doing loads. There's also Pat in charge, and I always smile when I say Pat in charge because she's so wonderful. She is just the best organiser, and I'll tell you what, if you've been there for her carers week dinner last year, honestly, it was good. I've been there for her Tai Chi session, which is brilliant, and she's always just so smiley and welcoming, and just such a smooth organiser. She doesn't fuss, she doesn't get herself stressed at all. She's brilliant. So for all of if everyone is there, if you're out there, if you can get your cup. Actually, do you know, I didn't even check to see which mug I brought this morning. I quite like this one, so that's okay. So if you can raise a mug, everybody, to all the carers group leaders who support us in and out, time and time again. Thank you. Okay, so perhaps if you've come in contact with some of the carers groups, or if you're a carer yourself, maybe you could add some chat below and let us know, you know, how you've sort of been touched by maybe a caring role or as a volunteer. So going on, the next people that I had on my list were the Talking Cafe. So I'm just scrolling down to bring it up. Now, the Talking Cafe volunteers, they're there when you nervously kind of step through the door, not knowing what to expect, feeling sort of full of anxiety, thinking, you know, the things I need to talk about, but who do I talk to? What do I do? And they're there wearing the yellow lanyards, and they welcome people in, give them a hot drink and a good natter, and then wait for the village agent or whichever professional it is that they would like to talk to. I have to talk about Phoenix in charge. She is just phenomenal. Now, Phoenix is always at the Talking Cafe, ready to welcome people in. But not only does she help at the Talking Cafe, but she knows everything about Chard. She volunteers everywhere. Wherever you are in Chard, Phoenix will pop up. And that's been an amazing help for all of us village agents and community agents, etc. Because if we need to know anything about Chard, ask Phoenix. She'll know the answer. So thank you, Phoenix. The team at Langport as well I'd like to thank, because they always give us a huge warm welcome. And Stephanie there in particular, she's organised her own craft group, and they're like a mutually supportive group. They sit and do crafts and help each other to unpick what troubles they have and give each other a hug and a helping hand. So again, thanks to Stephanie as well. So again, if we can say thank you to everyone who supports the Talking Cafes. Again, volunteers who really help us out. Now, I keep looking back at the chat, guys, but I haven't seen anything coming up. So if you can think of maybe some volunteering work that you do that you'd like to talk about, or some ideas of volunteering that you might like to try, then, you know, please do tap something in so that we can, you don't have to just sit and listen to me all the time. It'd be really nice to see some other people joining in. So going on to the next ones. Now, the next set of volunteers are similar, I suppose, to the carers groups, because they're the entertainment. And so they're people who work in each of the villages and the towns, and they set up things like the village cafes. Perhaps some of you have been to some of the village cafes, or you might want to tap in below about some of the cafes that you've been to that are particularly good. So I'm just scrolling down. Oh no, it's okay. Just seeing if I was bringing up some more messages for me. So in lots of villages there are people who have like a monthly or a weekly village cafe that everyone can go to, and it's a really good chance for people to get together and have a natter. But also it's a chance for people to just keep an eye on each other and check that everyone's okay. And if they're not there for a couple of weeks, think, oh, I wonder if they're all right. And when we were village agents to begin with, we used to go to the village cafes an awful lot, because it was a really good way to get to know the people in our areas and, you know, to find out what the need was out there so that we could fill those gaps in rural provision. And we were always blown away by, you know, what was going on in those cafes. And the ones that I'd like to think about are the ones in Queen Camel and Mudford and the team in West Camel. So they used to put on absolutely brilliant big cafes every single week. Some of them were monthly, some of them were weekly actually. And apart from having a whole array of really nice cakes that I used to really try hard not to eat, and cups of tea, they used to also put on events, or they'd have little market stalls. The bakery would drop down to the West Camel one, for example. And, you know, it was just really nice to go every week. And the people there were so welcoming. It was a really, really nice community. But of course, these things don't happen by themselves, do they? And the amount of work that has to be put in. I mean, even to just getting the cakes, baking nice cakes every week, because I'd fail there, unfortunately. So, you know, some of these run also with the local post office service coming in at the same time. So they can be quite a vital link for some of the villages. So again, I hope you've got your mugs there, everybody. If we can raise a mug, and or if you fancy a glass, I don't know, what time are we up to? Is that all right? 11:19. Are we able to raise a glass at this point, do you think? I'm not. I'm working, of course. So that's to the village organisers. Now, the next set of organisers, the next set of volunteers are obviously sort of at the top of people's thoughts at the moment, because these are the people who've been volunteering during lockdown. For some of those people, they've been furloughed, so they've had a little bit more time on their hands. The churches and the councils have been amazing at organising all these volunteers who've come together to make sure that our shielded people have been looked after, that they've got their food, their prescriptions, that they're not just locked away quietly with nobody keeping an eye on them. And honestly, I have to raise my hat to them. They have been incredible. When you think about it, I don't know if you, in the earlier days of lockdown, and you go into town and the queues outside Boots and the pharmacies is huge. And, you know, you've stood there and queued for somebody else's prescription all morning, and you get in there and then you find out that they haven't made the prescription up yet, and you realise it's all been in vain. You know, going into the supermarkets, queuing up, tackling the queues and going up and down the one-way system, and looking at somebody else's shopping list, trying to find the things that you need. It's actually really quite taxing. So again, you know, it's been amazing because those people have just kept going. And when we phone up and say, oh, look, we've got somebody here who needs some support with their prescription, those volunteers have been amazing. Oh, yes, we've got some people to help you. Don't worry. Yep, send it over. They've been absolutely fantastic. And, you know, they've also been, like the Chard group, for example, have even been doing a free hot meal service to some of those vulnerable people who normally would probably go out and get the food or would have their food deliveries brought to them. They've been absolutely amazing. I have to admit, I have been doing a little bit of volunteering for some people in our village, and just you know, people who are friends of mine who are shielding, and they've given me a shopping list, and I've gone in to have a look. And I have to say, it really is hard, because you're looking at a shopping list which could have somebody else's writing on it, and of course they buy different food to you. And when you go in to Tesco's or wherever you go, you know what you're going to get, you know where it is, you know which aisle it's on, and it's just into the trolley and you're gone. But of course, when you're going down the one-way system and you're looking for food or things that you don't normally buy, you don't know where it is. And so you're busy reading the list, trying to memorise it so that you can see it on the shelves as you go past. And then, you know, you look up, and before you know it, you're kind of too close to the person next to you, and you're not socially distancing. So you're like, oh, sorry. And as you go, you've got to really look up and down the aisles, because quite often they're quite specific at what they want. So they don't want a home brand, they want a particular one. So you've got to be really, really careful. And then there's the fear when you've got past it and you realise that you've forgotten something and you've gone past the aisle, because, you know, you can't do the faux pas, you can't do the social no-no of going back. You're not allowed to do reverse. It is really, really quite stressful. Luckily for me, because I did forget the McVitie's ginger nuts on one case, and the lady who was pointing us to the tills, she said she'd go back and get it for me, so she avoided my embarrassment for me. But honestly, it's quite challenging, isn't it? So, you know, these people who are doing this day after day, you know, I just want to just say thank you very much. And the fact that they're continuing now, and I know it's probably getting harder for people because, you know, people are going back to work. There are less volunteers, so the ones who are left are probably having to do more. So that is a thank you to the volunteers, the people who've organised them, that's the churches often, or the councils, or in my village, just a group of people who said, right, we need to do this, and they've got together and done it. And the other problem, of course, is money, because, of course, at first people had cash to pay for it, and they've had to get their heads together and work out their own ways of working out how that they can, you know, pay for these people's food for them. So again, if we can get our mugs, goodness me, we're going to have RSI by the end of the day. Thank you again for the volunteers who've really helped us during COVID. You have been amazing. Okay, so I can't see much coming up, guys. Either I'm not scrolling down properly, or I need to get some more coming in. Let's have a look. Oh, look, I'm not scrolling down properly. I was on the wrong scroller earlier. Here we go. I was thinking you were being a bit quiet. Look, so we've got the Talking Cafe put up. Thank you for that. That's brilliant. Yeah, look, the Volunteer Week stuff, that's really useful. Thank you for that. Now that's interesting. Yeah, the Somerset Food Resilience Task Force. Yeah, I have to admit, I haven't had a lot to do with that. So, yeah, thank you for bringing that up. And I'm glad you put a link on so that people can see. There's been a video there that Raj, I mean, Raj is just phenomenal and he needs a cheer in himself. His brain just works at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And, you know, he's thinking, well, all these companies are not being able to produce what they normally produce. There'll be surplus food out there. We need food. And he's organised getting food from companies such as ex-airline food that's been made. And he's delivered that to care homes and food banks and people who need it. And then he's even actually managed to get companies to donate food as well, such as some dog food, which I can't remember the company name, or I give them a thank you. Perhaps we could put that up. You know, just an incredible piece of work. So do please have a look at that afterwards. Not when I'm on, of course, but afterwards. And have a look at what else he's achieved. Let's have a look. What else have we got? Oh, Andrea, thank you. She said that a client has asked her to say a big thank you to the amazing volunteers of Barwick and Stowford. Their help and assistance has been a godsend and made these difficult times a lot safer. Actually, I don't need to read that because you guys can read all of that. But again, it's just phenomenal that people are really thinking about what their area needs. So they're not just churning out what they've seen other people do, but they're actually looking to see where the gap is and making it happen, it's brilliant, really brilliant. Oh, thank you, Talking Cafe. We did get a cheer for the carers group leaders. And Talking Heads in Henstridge, thank you. Oh, Kirsten, that's nice. So you've met Phoenix. Yeah, she does the craft group as well, actually. You're right. Yeah. If you'd like to get in contact with her, if you check with, well, we'll have her address somewhere. I don't personally, but I know that we'll be able to get hold of her. So, yeah, we'll get in hold of you afterwards and try and find that out for you because, yeah, no, she's brilliant. Now, Emily, that's interesting because you've said about the Love Somerton volunteers. And I have got a little bit further down actually to chat about that because they've actually put a formal thank you on themselves. But food banks, they've actually set up their own food bank. That is brilliant. And they're open Monday morning with 12 families. That is fabulous. I mean, we can't underestimate the food banks. You know, the amount of work, the amount of people that, you know, I've given food to, and it's been a godsend to them. And the other thing is it's useful food. You know, and if you look in the bag, the food that they're giving them is food that they're going to be able to use and eat, which is just brilliant. So Carolyn, yeah, oh yeah, Compton Dundon. I haven't been to their coffee morning. That would be quite a nice one to try. But yes, they have the travelling post office, which again makes it a really useful community event. Wow, look at this. Look at all these I missed out on because I couldn't find the scroller button. Oh, goodness me, technology, eh? Oh, lovely. Look, the Langport Cares. Yeah, the Langport Cares group itself is very good. And Ash, yeah, you know, I'd forgotten about Ash because they are a lovely group, actually. I used to really enjoy going on to the pavilion, and they've got a post office there as well, actually. Yeah, they're a really nice support group as well. They're a good, fun set of people over there. Alexine, yeah, does. Yeah, I'm glad I've sort of hit with other people. It's not just me out there sitting there crazily with a shopping list, getting it all wrong. And there's nothing worse as well, is there, when you break the 2 meters, or if someone in front of you just doesn't get moving and you're getting really frustrated. Brilliant. Look, you've got the pet food donators on as well. Fantastic. Oh, that is really good because they need that support. And oh, what a cute little puppy. Brilliant. Yeah, and the Yeovil volunteers as well. I mean, yeah, because I talk a lot about the villages because I've always been a village agent. But actually, the Yeovil group, they've got so many people to support, and they've all linked together to support each other. And it's been seamless, hasn't it? It's been amazing. Okay, so if I go down onto the next one, and then we'll come back and have another look at the chat as we go along. But thank you, guys. It's coming in really nicely. Okay, so Kirsty Jensen, she works at the Royal Volunteer Library Service, and she's managed to get a huge amount of volunteers, and they go into people's homes and they'll go and sit with them and they'll have a cuppa and a chat, and they'll do that sort of once every 3 weeks to a month, something like that. And they're to support people who can't get out of their homes very easily and just need an extra bit of company. Sometimes that can be carers, as well as people whose mobility is poor, because of course the people who are caring for other people, again, can't easily get out. Obviously at the moment they're not going into people's homes, so instead they're doing a chat line where they will call people on a regular basis and just touch in with them, check they're okay, and just have a little bit of a natter. And then sometimes they'll report back to us as well if they're a little bit anxious about somebody, and ask us to then give them a call to check up on them as well and make sure that they're safe. Also, as a part of the Somerset Carers Service, we've also got our own phone chat service for people who are trapped at home as carers. And if you'd like to receive a call, we've all got it all on here. You probably can't see it that clearly, but we can ping it up for you. 0800 31 68 600. So if you call in on that line, we've also got a similar service called the Talk and Support Service. And again, thank you to all the volunteers who support both of those services, because again, it's vital, and people feed back to us about how lovely it is. Emily, I've just come across the bit about Somerset Town Council. So they've issued a big thank you to the Community Lifeline volunteers, Love Somerton for the food bank, the Epsom Arms for the use of their premises as a volunteer hub. Now, I have to admit, there was a load more people on there as well. And when I put it on my notes to remember to say it, it didn't pick up all of it. And when I went back through Facebook to find the thank you, I can't find it. So I do apologise. There are loads more people in Somerton who are supporting and volunteering. And I'm sorry, your name's not on here. I wonder, actually, Emily, if you'll know who they are. And who else has been supporting throughout Somerton. It's a cracking town, actually, up there. They do an awful lot of brilliant stuff up there. So, yeah, well worth looking into if you live in that area. So, for the last time, let's just give a really big thank you and a mug up to all the volunteers out there who've been supporting us, not just with COVID, but just continually and sometimes quietly in the background, not always asking for glory and adulation, but just being there when we need them. Thank you. Now, if you've been inspired by that and fancy maybe having a thank you and realising how valuable you could be to help people, you could contact us on our 01823 number, or you could contact Spark, who organise volunteers across Somerset, and they've got loads of volunteering opportunities. Their number is 01460 202 970. If you want, obviously, we'll get that put onto the chat line. Thank you, Hannah, who's tapping away over there, making sure that it's all on there. So she's got the carers line on there. Thank you. And Kirsten, thank you. Yep. Yeah, I think that's it for the minute. So we'll see how we get on in a minute. So the last bit I wanted to chat about, I was just looking to see how much time we're on. Why should we volunteer? And I sometimes think, when I'm feeling sort of really churlish, is it just a ruse to save the government money? Is it just to help social services out so that we don't have to pay for it? Well, maybe, but do you know what? There is so much more to it. So, it brings back so much to people. And so I've listed a few of these ideas down below. And again, if you've got examples of times when you've been doing volunteer work and what it's brought to you, this would be a lovely time if you could tell us about it. So when I started thinking about why it's a good reason to volunteer, I went back to the NHS page of the 5 steps to wellbeing. And as you probably know, this is now recently, in the last couple of years, with the rise in support for mental health, these have been generally agreed as the 5 things that can safeguard your mental health. And the first one is connecting with people. Now, obviously, if you're volunteering, that is exactly what you're going to be doing. So, if you're stuck in your house, you can still volunteer by phone, by maybe being one of those people who offers phone calls to other people. You know, getting out and meeting people, it is just uplifting. Now, the second one is being physically active. Okay, so maybe the phone calls aren't the best example of this, but you know, there are loads of things, even from if you're working in a charity shop and you're lugging the clothes and cleaning the shelves and all that kind of stuff, to whether you're doing gardening work. You know, it's the list is endless, but apart from anything else, it gets you up out of the house, and that in itself is causing physical activity, which we all know is really helpful for us. Learning new skills, again, there's that, oh, I didn't know that feeling, which, you know, you feel like you're growing inside when you learn something new. And I mean, again, going back to the charity shop volunteers, you know, if you're looking at all these goods that you didn't know existed, finding out about antique values, learning how to use the till, or if you're doing the gardening, then again, you know, you can learn about new plants and new ways of looking after your garden that you might not have come up with, how to use new tools. You know, you just keep on learning, don't you? Giving to others. We talked a little bit about that before, and in fact, in one of our parish magazine articles, I wrote an article on this, and it was about Thomas the Tank Engine. And I know it sounds a bit daft, but when my daughter was little, she loved Thomas the Tank Engine, and the one thing that really struck me with Thomas was the fact that he wanted to be a really useful engine. And that struck a chord with me, because he wasn't trying to be the fastest or, you know, the most glamorous or the most used. He was looking to be really useful, and I always thought that was you know, just an interesting thing, really. And you know, it does, if you feel that you're of value, you know, it's your self-esteem, isn't it? Now, the last one is paying attention to the present moment, and probably that's, well, I say that doesn't come into it, but I guess it does, because the example that I'm going to give of some volunteering I used to do definitely was about mindfulness. I mean, okay, if you're driving a vulnerable person to a hospital appointment, that probably isn't the best time to start thinking about mindfulness. But you can also think afterwards about the good feelings that you're generating inside. So that's just the 5 steps to well-being. I mean, we haven't even thought about what you're doing as well for your community, how your streets will be safer and happier, how that person that you're helping is directly supported, you know, the places that you're going to and the people that are fulfilled and happy. And then, you know, you can get down to the more sort of or less altruistic things, like it's helping your CV. Let's face it, you know, next time you go for a job, you've developed these skills that might even help you to get a job in the thing that you've been volunteering in. But if not, it at least shows that you're doing things, you know, outside of work. Again, back to that feeling appreciated I've written here. But another thing that I think is really interesting is it can really help us grow as a person, because, you know, if you're meeting people out of your social circle, meeting people who are maybe more vulnerable than you get a real understanding of who they are and where they come from. And it can just help us be nicer people, because we get it, we get life, and we understand that life doesn't just come from our small vision point, and that other people who we might completely not get, once we've understood where they've come from, and, you know, it really helps them to, you know, helps us to understand by putting ourselves in their shoes. So I was going to give you an example of some volunteering that I've done, and I'm just going to scroll down again and see what else we've got on here, see if anyone's given us some nice ideas. So as we scroll down a little bit more, what have we got? So we've got, thank you guys, we've got the Spark number on there and a link. Oh, thank you, Christelle. Yeah, the Balsam Centre, they are incredible. I love it over there. Haven't been over there for ages because, of course, now we've got a big team over in Wincanton. I don't get over there very much. Oh, lovely. Got some new people coming on here. Is it Ejan? Sorry, what else have we got? The Talking Cafe, benefits of volunteering. Yep, thank you. And a Facebook link from Emily. Perhaps Emily, you could tell us a little bit about what that one is. That'd be really good to see. Thank you. So I volunteered for several years with horseshoes and handprints, and before that with riding for the disabled. And the reason I started doing that was because I'd just given up my lone horse and I was feeling a little bit bereft of horsey company. And also, I have to admit, on the less altruistic side, I did want to go into teaching special needs, which I did, but that's another story. So it was a double one for me. It was, horsey love, CV filling, and experience in the right places for me. So I got some serious physical graft. I'd go out on a Sunday morning and I'd either be out in the fields with the horses, poo picking, or I'd be in the stables, or sometimes I'd be, just helping out with the actual therapy sessions. So, when I was out, well, both of those, out on the fields and the therapy sessions, I'd get so much, the mindfulness, just the beauty of the morning when no one else is around but me and 10 horses. Or when I'm standing there holding a horse steady for someone who's having their therapy session, and I'm tickling, like the bottom of his chin where it goes all loose. Really lovely times that made me stop, because I had to stop for them. It made me stop, and I got some real mindfulness from their therapy sessions as well. It was wonderful. I also learnt skills about, teaching adults with LD to ride, and the different skills that they'd put in at the same time, such as teaching them to count, which I found really useful for my special teaching work. And I taught a little bit of signing, which I was able to take in for my first interviews, which was really helpful. But also, it linked me to a whole new set of friends, a whole new set of horses, and they were doing things like Bowen technique on horses and things that, and I started thinking, maybe that's where I'd like to take my life, maybe being a horse therapist. I didn't in the end, but it just gave me so many new ideas and a new outlook on life. I finally stopped when the company changed, because it's set up and it's doing a slightly different job. And then I've got now, for me, thank goodness, I've got some riding commitments elsewhere as well. But, I do miss those frosty mornings, sometimes going out when, like I said, there's just me out there. I do actually, I know it sounds a bit daft, but I also miss the days when it used to be sideways rain and the ground would just be thick mud, and I'd be lugging this huge heavy wheelbarrow through the thick mud, slopping along, and then the weight of the wheelbarrow with the wet dung in, sometimes it would spin and turn over and I'd have to pick it all up again and put it in. And exposing yourself to something quite as hideous as that, it's kind of, I don't know, soulful in itself. It's a memory that makes me chuckle sometimes, and I think, God, I'm not doing that again. But it's all experience, isn't it? And it's all something that you can chat to other people about, and it provides conversation, doesn't it? We've got so there are sort of outdoor people that you can volunteer with, and I know Spark have access to a lot of those. But there's things like Ham Hill County Park and Yeovil County Parks are often looking for people. And it's worth checking out with your local parish as well, because often the churches would quite like some people to help them. And then that might even get you a role as a groundsman if you're looking for paid work. So, worth looking into if you're into the physical side of it. So that's almost me, which is probably good because I've run over. I'm just going to have a quick look down the chats and see if there's anything else that anyone would like to say. All gone a bit quiet. So we've got the Talking Cafes put on the benefits of caring. So I'm going to draw to a close now, which I'm sure you'll be relieved to hear. Next week is actually going to be Carers Week, and last year we did Cake for Carers and went out to all our carers groups and brought loads of cakes, and like I said, Pat did a lovely tea, and we just celebrated what it was to be an unpaid carer. So next week I think we're going to be doing some work around that. It's a real shame we can't get out to our carers groups, of course, this year, but if you'd like to join us next week to find out what it is to be a carer, and to just chat about perhaps joining some of those carers groups or supporting. So in the meantime, if you are interested in thinking about being a carer, do have a look at this, and of course the links that we've just put on chat. If you're thinking again about volunteering, hopefully, you never know, we might have got you thinking about that a little bit and seeing if there's something that you can do, because of course You don't have to do it every week. You can do it, like it said on the statistics there, you could do it once a year, they were talking about, you know, once a month, whatever suits really. So get involved. And thank you for today. Oh, adopt a path, yes, of course. Now that's really good. Thank you, Carolyn. That's where, you know, and as a horse rider, I really like people who do this. It's where you take over a footpath or a bridle path near you and just try and keep it cut down. And I have to admit, at this time of year, we could really do with that because, you know, once all the cow pasture starts and all the nettles grow up and the bracken, a lot of our footpaths and bridle paths become impassable at this time of year. So, yes, please, could we have lots of people doing that one? That would be really good. So I'm going to sign off now, guys. Thank you very much for listening if you're all still there. And hopefully it'll be either me or Amanda next week talking to you about Carers Week. So thanks again, guys. Thanks for joining in. It was really lovely to see your things. And I'll say goodbye now and hopefully see you soon. Bye-bye. Stay safe, everyone.